Good evening and thanks for joining us on the news at this hour on NTA International. I am Elizabeth Omori. Now let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari joins other ECOWAS leaders in Bamako, Mali on consultations towards resolving country's political crisis. Senate calls for dissolution of Interim Management Committee of Niger Delta Development Commission. Vice President welcomes international community support towards implementation of National Economic Sustainability Plan. Plus, Nigerian Air Force late Tolulokpe combat helicopter pilot goes home. Thank you so much for joining us. Now let's begin with the President's visit to Mali. President Muhammadu Buhari has joined 4 other ECOWAS leaders in Bamako, Republic of Mali, on a one-day peace mission following the political crisis rocking the West African nation. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the President was received on arrival at Mobido Keita International Airport by high-powered government delegation led by Prime Minister Bubu Sise. Also at the airport were the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Zubairu Dada, and the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Hamid Rufai Abubakar. President Muhammadu Buhari and the ECOWAS leaders agreed to meet in Bamako for further consultations towards finding a political solution to the crisis in the country. ECOWAS Chairman President Muhammadu Issoufou of Niger, as well as Presidents Macky Sall of Senegal, Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana, Al-Hassan Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire, and the leader of the ECOWAS Special Envoy to Mali, former President Goodluck Jonathan, are participating in the meeting. The ECOWAS leaders are scheduled to meet separately with the Malian leader, President Ibrahim Keita, as well as Imam Mahmoud Dicko and the M5 Strategic Committee, RFP, in furtherance of the mediation efforts. A communique is expected at the end of the crucial meeting aimed at achieving sustainable peace, democracy and development in the Republic of Mali. Still talking Mali, a 203-member group of Chinese 8th batch of peacekeeping troops to Mali departed from Shenyang Northeast Wednesday to perform a one-year United Nations mandated mission in the Western African nation. This batch of peacekeeping groups came from a combined brigade and an engineering and chemical response brigade of the 79th Army Corps of the People's Liberation Army. They are divided into 3 departments of guards, sappers and medical care. And back home, as the federal government kickstarts the implementation of the National Economic Sustainability Plan, it has equally welcomed a move by the international community to support the successful execution of programs encapsulated in the plan. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who stated this during a virtual meeting Thursday with representatives of the international community from the United Nations, European Union, United Kingdom, agencies of the United Nations, World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who applauded the commitment of the international community to support Niger's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, also noted that the country will take advantage of the crisis to effect significant changes in the critical sectors of the Nigerian economy. The Vice President also restated the government's condolences on the recent killing of 5 aid workers on Wednesday in Borno State by Boko Haram insurgents. The resident and humanitarian coordinator of the United Nations system in Nigeria, Edward Kalun, who led the delegation, said Nigeria's response to the pandemic is well planned and articulated, noting that interactions between the federal government and stakeholders would aid a smooth implementation of the plan. Kalun and other members of the delegation commended the development and approval of the Economic Sustainability Plan, offering to assist in its implementation. Now, with a global increase in COVID-19 infection and fatalities, ECOWAS Commission is proposing regional guidelines and protocols to contain the pandemic. A draft standard to this effect includes receiving parliamentary consideration at the ongoing extraordinary session of the ECOWAS Parliament. On Nge Fineface reports.
With the understanding that the socio-political and economic growth of the region depends a great deal on the health of citizens, ECOWAS Commission is seeking the adoption of regional capacity and standards in combating the coronavirus pandemic at the levels of prevention, containment, and even treatment.
When the countries closed their borders, there was no way for us to get medicine from elsewhere. You needed to have indigenous products to use. So today, we need to be able to develop the capacity for local production of vaccines in the region.
Members of Parliament agree that a united fight holds greater prospect for success against the pandemic.
People who made these local products should be approached by ECOWAS so that they can develop further the product they've made. Go to our markets. You'll see so many people. People are there seated without wearing face masks. No social distancing. Nothing is being respected. This is a concern for us.
If you are not putting on masks, you will not be allowed. Therefore, you are not even forcing them to wear it. But their necessity will now force them to wear the mask. There are so many places you cannot enter if you are not putting on mask.
I think it should just be a general policy, no mask, no service. And if we can enhance that and show that work, I think that will be a great help to our region.
I believe we should ensure that our standard agencies are very effective. So if the standard agencies are very effective, then all our recommendations will actually sail through.
They expect member states to implement the draft standards when adopted to help the region build its resilience against the virus. In Abuja, Onengiye Fineface, NTA News.
And still on COVID-19, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 says it remains committed to research towards finding cure to COVID-19, but urges Nigerians to change their behavior and scale up their compliance with non-pharmaceutical products. PTF Chairman Boss Mustafa said this at the briefing of the task force. He said testing of PTF members for COVID-19 has been a regular exercise, adding that the policy will be sustained. PTF carried out a risk assessment and tested all its members to determine their status after the foreign minister tested positive to coronavirus.
Organizations for their continuing support through donation of medicines and equipment. In this regard, we wish to assure you that the resources will be judiciously utilized.
The Ministry of Health rededicates itself to doing everything possible to ensure that citizens get the best of treatment and are well taken care of. In this respect, I have received good testimony about some of our health institutions.
So you can see from all of these how hard the entire system is working to improve access to testing, and all of this will be an incredible improvement, not only for COVID. Of course, we're implementing this for COVID, but you can imagine that all of this will serve Nigeria for many years to come, whether you have Lassa, yellow fever, in fact, any infectious disease. And hopefully we'll be able to actually roll this out for all the other infectious diseases, including TB in our country.
It is important for us to continue to be vigilant and take steps to protect ourselves.
And state governments that have announced ban on Salah festivities and hope the move will be replicated by other states. Meanwhile, more than 10,000 African health workers infected with coronavirus as China's COVID-19 vaccine is set to hit the market by the end of 2020. Uche Ogochukwu has this and more on Global Updates.
A COVID-19 vaccine developed by Chinese pharmaceutical company Sinopharm is expected to hit the markets by the end of 2020. Chairman of the pharmaceutical company, Liu Jinzhen, said Sinopharm has also built production facilities to ensure mass production of the vaccine in the next step, and that it is confident in the vaccine's effectiveness, safety and practicality. The World Health Organization says more than 10,000 health workers in 40 African countries have been infected with the novel coronavirus. The United Nations agency said the pandemic is gathering pace in Africa, placing a greater strain on the health services across the continent, which has 768,978 cases, out of which 16,423 have died, while 434,973 people have recovered from the virus. Back home, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, confirmed 543 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. The cases were recorded in 15 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 38,344, 15,815 recoveries, and 813 deaths. At about 6:45 p.m. Nigerian time, data published by the COVID-19 Resource Center of Odometer indicates that 50,459,520 persons have contracted COVID-19 globally, 631,865 fatalities recorded, with 9,409,353 recoveries. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
Thank you so much, Oche. The Nigerian Governors Forum is strengthening collaboration with national and international partners to increase capacity in the containment of COVID-19 and gender-based issues. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that this was part of communique issued at the end of its 13th virtual meeting on COVID-19.
Nigerian Governors Forum is sustaining collaboration with the EU and UN to strengthen fight against sexual violence for women and minors as a further commitment to the earlier state of emergency declared on the crime. The forum is in consultation with the Senate Health Committee and other stakeholders in the Health Ministry to facilitate the continuous implementation of Basic Health Care Provision Fund. Nigerian governors are synergizing with the federal government to resolve the contentious provisions of the Executive Order 10 and utilize $100 million COVID-19 support facility from the World Bank. Governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, and Chairman of NGF Subcommittee briefed NGF on the coordinated efforts with Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 on strategies adopted for school reopening. The tasked team leader for the World Bank states Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability, Yuman Lee, provided key updates on the program and actions for state government to meet upcoming 2019 deadlines. National Coordinator of Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Dr. Sani Aliyu, made presentation to NGF on the need to strengthen risk communication pillar of COVID-19 response through relevant health agencies. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA.
And in other news, the Senate has called for the dissolution of the Interim Management Committee of the Niger Delta Development Commission to pave way for the composition of its governing board. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
In the last 2 months, the Nigerian media has been inundated with stories of alleged financial recklessness in the Niger Delta Development Commission. Both chambers of the National Assembly investigated the allegations, and the report of the Senate Ad hoc Committee has been presented and its recommendations approved.
The NDDC Interim Management Committee should therefore be dissolved to pave way for the constitution of the Board of Directors in accordance with the Act.
Apart from calling for the disbandment of the Interim Management Committee, the report recommended the establishment of monitoring and advisory committees, the Commission to henceforth report directly to the President, review its corporate social responsibility and procurement process. Senate resolved that the Interim Management Committee should refund a total of 4.9 billion naira paid to staff and contractors in breach of procurement process. This includes the 1.4 billion naira it paid to its staff as palliative for COVID-19. The funds are to be returned to the coffers of the Commission.
They talk about spending 3.something billion on COVID. COVID-19 epicenter in Nigeria is Lagos.
The minimum is life imprisonment or amputation. That is the solution to corruption in Nigeria. We have large army of youth today, they have no job, we are not safe.
They forgot to tell Nigerians how they spend money when there was no body traveling, no car, no movement, interstate lockdown.
We should look at the act itself, establishing the NDDC. Where are the lacunas or the inadequacies? We are on the same page with the executive arm of government on this.
It also mandated its committees on ethics, privileges and public petitions to investigate alleged involvement of some members of the National Assembly in the Commission's contract awards.
And I knew majority of members of the National Assembly have nothing to do with NDDC.
Senate has called on the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency to immediately rehabilitate the spoiled portion of the road that leads to the Mambila Power Plant, that is the Goje Mayo Selbe Gembu Road in Taraba State.
It's such that if there is a cut in the road, there will be a total isolation of that region. And that will be dangerous for the project the federal government has set forth to undertake in Mambila.
The legislators paid tribute to Nigeria's first female combat helicopter pilot, Tolulope Arotile, who died on Tuesday, 14th of July 2020.
I want to urge the federal government to try and provide succor to the immediate family of this young lady.
Senate has adjourned to 15th of September 2020 for its annual recess. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. Let's take a breather now. More reports ahead. Stay with us.
Nigerians, let us take responsibility. Stay healthy, stay safe, and curb the spread of the virus. Take responsibility. The coronavirus spreads from one person to another. Let us avoid crowd gathering of any kind for any reason. Take responsibility. Avoid traveling from one state to another during these lockdown restrictions. Obey all the rules that are put in place. Take responsibility. Stop spreading fake news and unverified reports about the coronavirus. There is no known cure for COVID-19. Take responsibility. Observe all the measures that can help stop the spread of the virus. Together, we can do this, but only if we take responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television.
Thanks for staying with us. The Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Godswill Akpabio, writes House of Representatives, explaining that he was quoted out of context considering concerning allegations of NDDC contract awards to lawmakers of the 9th National Assembly. In the letter read by the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, the Minister says his reference to 60% during the investigative hearing on NDDC was in response to a question put to him on another issue entirely. Following this development, the House rescinded its decision to institute a legal action against the Minister. Thursday's plenary passed 3 bills, while 16 others went through second reading. Among motions adopted is a call on the federal government to set up the National Council on Public Procurement to check flagrant disregard of guidelines by MDAs. The House is also to investigate the alleged misappropriation of 100 billion naira by management of the Northeast Development Commission. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development and the Senate has given assurance that the Ajaokuta Steel Company will be given the necessary attention to be operational. A delegation comprising the Ministry of Mines and a delegation from the Senate, led by its leader Yahya Abdullahi, gave the assurance during a visit to Kogi State government.
And the process is well underway. We've had a slight delay because of the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. But be that as is may, as soon as air travel limitation is lifted, our counterparts from Russia will be down to start the technical audit, which of course will put us on the way to start this.
Lapidary, fertilizer, electrical equipment and insulators, dyes, ammonia, gas, chalk and a host of others. In addition to the above, there are other possible downstream iron and steel industries that can be established to utilize Ajaokuta Iron and Steel Company's product as inputs, especially with the renewed commitment of the federal government.
Has caused a very serious concern and a very serious commitment of this administration to ensure that Ajaokuta Steel Complex and its associated industries are revived, completed, and implemented. Because that's the foundation on which the Nigerian government, or on which the entire Nigerian industrial development agenda can be based.
Ogidi reports that currently the committee is undertaking inspection of the steel company in Itakpe and thereafter will proceed to Ajaokuta Steel Company. And the Sultan of Sokoto and President General Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, Mohammed Saad Abubakar, has declared Friday, 31st July 2020 as the 10th of Zulhijjah 1441 as the day of Eid al-Kabir. This was contained in a message signed by the Wazirin Sokoto and Chairman, Advisory Committee on Religious Affairs, Sultanic Council, Sokoto. The Sultan advised Muslim communities throughout the country to observe Eid prayers at their Jumat mosques and not Eid grounds to further curb the spread of COVID-19. Sultan Saad Abubakar felicitates with the Muslim Ummah, urging them to continue to pray for peace, progress and development of the country. Into other matters, as women across the globe continue to raise the awareness on the promotion of women inclusivity in governance, the League of Women Voters is soliciting the support of the Nigerian Television Authority in this regard. The all-female organization made their intention known during a courtesy call on the Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority. The National Gender Policy recommended 35% affirmative action for a more inclusive participation of women in politics. As agents of economic and political development, the League of Women Voters of Nigeria is in the forefront of facilitating women engagement in governance for the enthronement of good leadership in Nigeria and democracy.
Our request includes our able DG to be an official media partner to NILO as an indigenous women's rights organization, to air our jingle and documentaries as a form of partnership and support to women, to grant us interviews on issues that directly and indirectly affect women.
The helmsman of the NTA assured the women of the support of the largest television network in Africa.
Our personality program one-on-one is going to be 1 hour, and I will dwell specifically on the League of Voters and what it does and what it needs done by others from the outside. So we're offering that here and now. Once in a while, airing of your documentaries, we can guarantee that. Where you must pay for anything, I want to assure you that you will get a very, very generous discount.
Rape, which is fast becoming a second pandemic, also formed part of their discourse.
We'll keep talking about it until those whose responsibility it is, to take these people and put them where they belong, do their work.
The government must take action. The National Assembly must come out with a very, very strict law.
They unanimously advocate proper education of women and girls, as well as the protection of their rights. To electoral matters now, a former Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice in Ondo State, Abuja Jegede SAN, has won the People's Democratic Party governorship primary election held on Wednesday, July 22. Olajide Bello reports that the chairman Ondo State PDP governorship primary election and governor of Enugu State, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, who supervised the conduct, announced the results.
The election, which involved over 2,000 delegates from the 18 local government areas of the state, was conducted in an atmosphere of peace and in compliance with COVID-19 protocols. The primary election, which was keenly contested, had 8 aspirants, including the incumbent state deputy governor, Agbola Ajayi, the chairman on the state PDP governorship primary election, and governor of Enugu State, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, announced that Abuja Jegede SAN won the election, having polled 888 votes to defeat his closest rival, the incumbent state deputy governor, Agbola Ajayi, who had 657 votes.
By the powers conferred on me as a returning officer for this exercise, and now that Jegede Eyipayo, having scored the highest votes cast and met all the requirements of our party gala for the conduct of this election, is hereby declared winner.
In his acceptance speech, the PDP candidate for the October 10 governorship election in Ondo State, Eyipayo Jegede, enlisted the support of party leaders, members, and electorate in the state to win the election.
I congratulate all of us. Gratitude to God, gratitude to the people of Ondo State. This is the beginning of great things to come.
This is the second time Eyipayo Jegede will be picking PDP governorship ticket, having lost to the incumbent governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu in 2016. From Akure, Olajide Bello, NTA News.
In out to appointments, the Nigeria Customs Service Board has approved the promotion of 2,634 officers. The board equally approved the appointment of 5 Assistant Controllers General, the dismissal of 1 Assistant Controller General, and compulsory retirement of 1. A statement by the Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Customs Service, DCP Joseph Atta, says the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, and the Chairman of the board presided over the 52nd regular meeting which ratified their decisions. Away from appointments, the remains of combat helicopter pilot Flying Officer Tolulokwe have been laid to rest with full military honors in Abuja. Correspondent Najatu Tijani reports.
To rest with full military honors with other heroes at the military cemetery Abuja amidst tears. Members of her family and several others were in attendance to bid farewell to the combat pilot and gallant officer.
That this young and confident first female combat helicopter pilot in the history of the Nigerian Air Force braved so many odds to get to where she was before her demise.
To the entire nation who mourn with our family and continue to show us love, we are sincerely grateful.
She has now been committed to Mother Earth. Her family and the Nigerian Air Force say her memory will live on. Najatu Tijani, NTA News.
And may the soul of Tolulokwe rest in peace. Amen. And that's the news at this hour on NTA International. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Remember to connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists.